All right, good evening. My name is Kristy Zuehlke. I'm a former classroom teacher, a tutor, and a mom of two boys. Most recently, I joined the literacy nonprofit We Shall Read, which supports teachers, tutors, and parents just like you to learn the most effective, evidence-based ways to support children in reading, using the brain-friendly reading techniques and curriculum. I'm just so thankful to be here with you tonight in conjunction with the Farmington Community Library to teach you the most effective reading and spelling games geared toward kids between 4 and 6 years old. As a busy parent myself, I really appreciate you being here with me tonight. I know your time is extremely valuable. So I know some of you might be here to learn just some new games to freshen up your routine with your kids at home. Some of you might be here just to really get your kids that strong foundation for reading. Others probably, especially after the pandemic, are a little bit worried about their kids maybe with writing or with spelling. And then I know I have a whole group of parents who are in desperate need of some new tools because you're fighting with your kids and you need to help reduce the anxiety and the stress and fights around reading and the little time that you have with your kids in the evenings. So I've actually been in that position before with my reluctant reader, and these games and these techniques have completely transformed the way I teach and our evenings and our weekends together at home. So here's what I know to be absolutely true. I know that you are doing your absolute best right now with the tools that you have, especially living through a pandemic with this crazy world right now. I also know that your kids are in the same spot. They are working hard and they're working hard all day at school. And if you have that reluctant reader or that child that just doesn't want to sit down with you and doesn't want to pick up a book or do anything like that, this is the moment where we as parents can step in and make the biggest lifelong impact on their future. Because we're not just teaching them reading, we're teaching them life skills. Because every learning opportunity sits right next to a point of frustration. So we have the incredible job to guide our children to have a growth mindset, to persevere and to continue when things get tough and sticky, so that they learn grit and learn what it feels like to be resilient when they're with you in your household. But in order to do that, we have to have their buy-in. We have to have their cooperation. So the evidence-based strategies and games are just such an incredible tool because it will boost your child's confidence. In turn, they're going to be willing to practice more. And this will let them learn that grit and that resilience. So again, thank you for being curious. Thank you for being open-minded and to learn some new skills with me today. Parenting can be hard. At times, it can be absolutely relentless. So I hope what you learned today can support you in your parenting with your child. So why do we play word level games? Well, I'm really excited to share with you that there has been over 40 years of scientific research from around the entire world with how the brain learns how to read. But here's the thing, even though this research has been around in the medical field and in medical journals, it hasn't gotten into the hands of educators until kind of a recent movement. Now, I didn't learn about brain-based research when I was in college or even in my master's degree. So I'm really passionate to share this information, a little bit about what I have learned, because it gives a lot of background information as to why we do the strategies we do, why we teach this way, and why I highly recommend playing these word level games. So this man right here, his name is Stanislas Dehaene, and he is a professor and a French neurocognitive scientist, one of the leaders in brain research from around the world. And he concluded actually a few really important findings from his research. First of all, that human beings are born to learn how to experience a language. It's innate inside of them. Just being reared by family and friends, a child will learn how to speak. But human beings are not born to learn how to read. It's not going to happen through evolution. So the brain repurposes what we use for spoken language in order to learn how to read. So the part of the brain that recognizes and identifies faces actually gets repurposed in reading to identify the shapes of letters. A different area of the brain for spoken language produces the sounds that connect to those letters. In education, we call that the sound symbol connection. Together, that connects to the part of the spoken language to create that meaning. This is also where the brain recognizes patterns in words. So as you become an expert reader, you connect those sounds with the symbols more and more quickly because you continue to practice and those neural pathways are built up over time. It happens so quickly that it almost appears as if a child has memorized a word. But neuroscientists have found out that memorization takes place in a completely different part of the brain than does decoding. So what a reader does is they take that symbol that they're seeing and connect it to the sound so rapidly to create that meaning. Almost as if it's memorized, but it's not. And here's the thing, once children learn all of those sound symbol connections, they can unlock the code to a language. So in our case, the English language. So the good news is that there's only one evidence-based way to teach reading. Your child, whether right now they are a fabulous reader, whether they're struggling a little bit, maybe your child has been diagnosed with dyslexia, or maybe dyslexia runs in your family and you're noticing some characteristics in your child. The thing is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Reading happens in the brain the same way for everyone around the world, no matter their language, no matter their ability. The same parts of the brain need to be activated in order to learn how to read. So we use these teaching strategies to activate those areas of the brain to literally rewire and build neural pathways in our brain. It's pretty fascinating. So how do we do it? We do it by training the brain to recognize patterns in words. Once the brain knows the code, it can decode the words for reading and do the same process to turn around for a similar task for spelling. We do this by explicitly teaching our children the common spelling patterns, and then we practice that through repeated word reading. This builds the neural pathways for fluency. Now, when we continue to build that meaningful repetition through words, and we become fluent with reading the words, then we go to phrases. And we work on being fluent with those phrases. We move from there to sentences, and we become a fluent reader with sentences. You see, it's the fluency that activates that meaning part. So then we're able to access comprehension, so we can be thinking about what we're reading. We know this instructional strategies is beneficial for all readers, but it's absolutely necessary for struggling readers. And it's critical for those students who are dyslexic because it strengthens the neural pathways in the brain. The stronger the neural pathways are, the easier reading gets. So we know that 1 out of 5 children have characteristics of dyslexia. So this instructional strategy helps everyone. It levels the playing field. This is the power of word level games. Not to mention, these games provide a very non-threatening, fun, engaging way to practice these skills. When your child, if they are a reluctant reader and they are stressed to go read a book, a game is a very inviting way. When the stress and anxiety goes down, they can actually access that new information and they're able to absorb it. And once again, once we have their buy-in, they're going to practice more, they're going to be feeling more confident, and they're going to have that grit to persevere when things do get tricky. So I want to reiterate what Melanie said before. I will be sending out this PowerPoint. I know I just talked a lot about the brain. In the PowerPoint that I'm going to be sending to you, I have a ton of notes in there. So you can just sit back, you can relax, you can listen, and you'll be getting the PowerPoint as well as some of the video clips that I'll be sending or showing you tonight. I also want to remind you that if you have any questions while I'm presenting, my colleague Kristy Zuehlke is here from Brain Friendly Reading, and she can answer any questions as we go along. I will also be answering questions after the presentation. And I also know right now, some of you are probably thinking, you're talking a lot about patterns in words. Where would I even find that? At the end of the presentation, I have a QR code that can link you to the resources I'm going to be using tonight. I love these resources because they actually are very low prep. They have a fabulous scope and sequence to them, which I can show you right now. Which basically means that each lesson builds off of itself. So here's an example of the resources. Right here, I have the scope and sequence. So this is the order in which we teach it, and each skill builds off of the next. And here are some of the different games and blank templates, as well as some of the pages that we can go through. Now, if your child is coming home already with maybe a program that they do at your school that has words of a common spelling pattern, you can use these. This is an example of my third grader. He came home with this just the other day, and these are the words for this week. So they are working on the IRE pattern. All the words have that pattern in it, and you can play any of these games with that. Today, I am going to be using the Brain Friendly Reading resources, and I'm going to show you a little bit about how we do that. So the first game I'm actually going to teach you is called Go Fish. And in this, this is an example of the resource. If I were going to pull this, this is here, it says the instruction. So we're working on the short I, and this is the game Go Fish. There are multiple games of the Go Fish to continue to develop those patterns. So I just happened to pull Go Fish number 2. So if I were going to tutor with this, I would have a student grab the highlighter, and we would talk about how there is a consonant and then a vowel and a consonant. This is a closed syllable type. So we know when there's a consonant after that vowel, this vowel is going to say its short sound. So the I here says eh. So my student would go like this, and they would highlight and say eh, 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 eh. Then they would come up here and they would work on blending the word together. B, it, bit, id, rid, d, ip, dip, lit, lit. And you can go through this whole page. Now, in the classroom, you need 2 of these in order to play Go Fish. So if I were using this in the classroom, I could be doing this whole group, and each student would just get 1 page. Then what you do is you take these and you cut them up into cards. So I could, if in the classroom, I could meet with the person next to me, we could put our cards together in order to play Go Fish. If you're working in this at home, all you do is slice them up and then you can get ready to play. When I am playing this, an easy way to have a card holder is to actually use ice cube trays. And you can go ahead and you can put them just like this, and then the kids can actually see the words and they don't need to worry about having that fine motor of holding all of the little cards. So I actually have a video that I would like to show you of my two boys playing Go Fish. They're different ages, I will say. So when my older child plays with my younger child, all it's doing is continuing to strengthen those neural pathways in the brain. So I'll say, I need your help, come play, with your brother. And again, that repeated reading is only going to help him. So here we go.
Okay, today we're going to play Go Fish. So each person is your 3 cards, and we are working with the consonant, vowel, consonant, vowel. And when we have this pattern, the I represents the it sound. That's right. All right, why don't you start us off? E the hand, get a get Do you have any matches? Read it. 2 eggs. Eggs. Dip. Eggs. Eggs. Pay close attention to the letters. Right, your turn.
Okay. So that is one of the examples of Go Fish. You just have those 3 cards and then you go back and forth asking what words, and you just continue to practice that word level reading. Another game that you can play is called memory. Memory is just like the typical game. I'm sure you've played it with your kids before, but this has all of the words same words that we use, same deck of cards as Go Fish. So I pared this down to only 6 cards. You could use all of the cards depending on the level of your child, or you could add more or take away some as well. So one way to play this is the first person goes and they're going to turn over 2 cards and then they're going to read it. Fig. Hid. Oh, I don't have a match, so I turn them back over. The second person could go. Fig. Oh, I know where. Was it here? Was that hid, or was this fig, or was it here? If they flip this one over, then they read it fig and they notice they have a match. Now, if you're playing this with your child and you notice your child is struggling remembering where the cards are, maybe their working memory needs some practice and some strength. One of the other ways that you can actually modify this game is that once player 1 goes, fig and hid. After player 1 goes, if they don't have a match, they leave those cards up. Player 2 can go fig and rim. I do not have a match. And then you cue your child, okay, now look around the whole board. Is there another match on the board? Fig and fig, look, I found a match. And then they can match those up and keep them here. Again, we are simply practicing that word level reading. The stronger the more we practice, the more those neural pathways will get built up. So you can play memory face down or you can play memory face up. Now here's the thing, is that reading and writing are 2 sides to the same coin. So kids need both word level reading practice as well as writing the words in combination. So identifying those common patterns in words while reading, and then simultaneously working on that skill of writing those same patterns helps lay that groundwork, develops those neural pathways that get stronger and stronger and stronger. But here's the thing, before we get into the act of writing, I want to address, as parents, we can really work on the skills that are absolutely necessary to become a proficient writer. For many kids, writing is a struggle. And it makes sense because writing includes phonemic awareness, which is basically being able to listen closely to a word and break it apart by its sounds. Then being able to connect the sounds that they hear with the appropriate letter, as well as identifying those word patterns that we've been talking about, along with writing the correct letter formation. So writing has a lot of different components to it. Now, one of the things we can do to address that phonemic awareness part is something that we call at Brain Friendly Reading, arm tapping. Arm tapping is a multi-sensory technique that really promotes that long-term memory and moves into long-term memory storage. So when we listen very closely to a word and we break it apart by its sounds, and then we work on blending that back together, we're really strengthening those neural pathways in the brain, which is going to help with reading and with writing. So in order to do this technique, you use your non-dominant hand. So I am right-handed. So I hold the pencil with my right hand. So when I tap, I'm going to be tapping with my left hand. I listen very closely to the word, and I break the word apart by the beginning, the middle, and the ending sounds by using my arm. So we know that a syllable is a word or a part of a word that has a talking vowel. So every syllable will have a vowel in it, and that vowel typically sits right here on the elbow. So if we're working with one syllable words, maybe we're working with that closed syllable type, and maybe we're starting off with the very first lesson with that short A sound. We would arm tap and do many, many words that have that same spelling pattern in it to practice. So let's say this is how I would do it. I would say, I'm going to say the word cat, and I want you to repeat it, cat. I'm going to take that word and I'm going to break it apart on my arm. I'm going to listen very closely to that first sound that I hear. At, at, cat. And then I blend that back together. Why don't you try it with me? Because we know if you're going to do this right now, you're going to help move this to long-term memory faster if you actively participate with me. So go ahead and get your arm out. I'm going to say the word pan. 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 Let's do another word. Mad. Add. Mad. Now, once you're further along with the curriculum and you're starting to work with blends, I do have some other techniques that can help identify those blends and how we push two letters together and you say those sounds kind of as a pair. When we do that, we put the blend right here on our shoulder. So if it's a beginning blend, let's say the word clap, clap, clap. Or swim, swim, swim. If that blend comes at the end of the word, then we put that end blend right here on our wrist. So if I say the word band, and that and is going to sit right here, band. Or just, just. Then later on, maybe we get to multisyllabic words where words are longer and more tricky. Well, longer words are simply made up of more syllables. So the way that we address this is we take that word and we break it apart into its syllables. I find that using this strategy of pounding really works, especially with my boys, instead of clapping the syllables. So we will pound out the syllables today to chunk that multi-syllabic word up, and then we put it on our arm. So one way we can do that is if I say the word sun hat, we're going to break it apart. Sun hat. The first syllable was sun. Sun. Second syllable, sun, hat. 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 Let's try it together. How about hot dog? Hot dog. The first syllable was hot. 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 That second syllable. Let's think about that word. Hot dog. It was dog. 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 So, oops. There we go. So we can actually continue and use this technique, and you will be absolutely amazed at how your child's spelling improves instantly. When I was a teacher, I taught kindergarten, first grade, and a lot of times kids would either not hear the vowel, the glue that sticks that syllable or word together, or they would kind of completely forget about the end of the word. Using this technique and getting them in the habit of using their arm to break apart a word really strengthens their writing so that they hear all of the sounds. If your child is actually maybe struggling, breaking apart, or hearing the individual sounds, you just continue to model this. Continuing to model it and practice it and have them, you can be the one that says it and have them use their arm and say it with you to practice. This is going to help them develop those neural pathways. And with more practice, they're going to be able to hear those individual sounds. So if I were using this while tutoring in the classroom, I could simply take all of those words in that spelling pattern and then have the dictate to the kids and have them write that. One of the things we can do is have them make their own game cards. So I wanted to show you today one of the students that I was recently tutoring. We were working on the difference between a closed syllable and an open syllable. So I would dictate a word here, he, and he would write E. He would first put it on his arm, E, and then he would write it down. Hem, he would put it on his arm, M, and then he would write it down. And we made a whole bunch. I have a whole envelope here of the open syllables and flip-flopping back and forth between the open and closed. One of the things you can do is simply make these and play a game of Go Fish. Get these cards out. Go like this, you deal them. Each kid gets 3 cards, and then they say, do you have no, not? No, I don't. Go fish. You can easily play it that way. Or you can actually take these cards like I did and put a little number at the bottom. These have become very exciting while I have been working with my kiddos who I tutor, because all it is now that you have these games, you have a deck of cards. You can get out any board game. Here we have Candyland. So I can flip these over. I can go first and read this. B, bed. And I can go 3 spots. 1, 2, 3. The next person can go, oops, he, hem. And they can go 2 spots, and you can continue through the whole game. Another game that I have recently been using, as well as Candyland. Candyland kind of goes by a little quick. If you have a lot of cards that you want to practice, or you have more time, this game of chutes and ladders is super fun. I don't know if you've ever seen it before, but basically you can use these cards, same premise. You put the guys right here. If they land on a ladder, they climb all the way up and they get to go here. If they land on the top of a slide, they have to go all the way back down. And again, you just use these cards as a way to practice this word level reading so that we're taking those patterns and moving them to long-term memory. Now, with the board games, I have found that the kids that I'm tutoring absolutely love board games. And what another strategy that I use is to have them make their own board game. It's super simple. You can either take this from the resources that I mentioned, and the kids, you can dictate a word and the kids can write the word. Started to review this with my 5-year-old the other day, and we started it, and I would say fed, he would put it on his arm, ed, and then he would write it down. Hen, he would put it on his arm, and write it down. Another student I tutor wanted to make his own, and he drew the lines and wrote all of the words in it. Here we had gone through all of the short vowels, so we were just reviewing and mixing all those up to practice the short vowel sounds. But even all the way, you can continue to use this same premise even if you have older kids. I was working with a 2nd grader and about 7 years old, and we were working on the vowel teams, the EA primarily. You might see a few that have EE in there because we've worked on that as well. But she just made this her own. I was tutoring her virtually, and she decided to make her own game board. She wanted to color it in. The next time we met in person, she had a whole bunch of different rules and her own little game pieces, and we were able to play this. It was just phenomenal because they took ownership of the game boards. They want to play over and over again because they spent so much time making it. Again, they're making a game board, but they're really practicing reading and they're practicing writing, all of those different word patterns, which is just strengthening the brain. Now, one of my favorite games to play, and I find myself using this frequently, is a simple game of tic-tac-toe. I was playing this the other day with a student that I tutor, and we were doing the O, ooh. And what I would do is I started off with a blank tic-tac-toe board, and I would tell her a word and she would write it out. And then I would hand her my book. She would pick a word from the book and I would write out a word. Again, we're practicing that reading component simultaneously with the writing. And this helps move that pattern into long-term memory so much faster. I also wanted to show you that I was playing this with my kids, and I wanted to show you, I have 2 different ages of my children, and we were able to work on the patterns they were working on. So my oldest had that AIR pattern. My youngest was working on the short O. They each had different skills and they were able to play tic-tac-toe. My oldest wanted me to make sure I mentioned he let his younger brother win, which I just thought was pretty funny. So again, I love this because you can play this anywhere. You can play this when you're going out to dinner. You can play this as you're waiting for a sports practice. It's very easy and super fun. One of the last games I wanted to mention is another one of my absolute favorite games to play, and it's I Spy. Again, this is a game you can take on the go, have in your back pocket. I play this all day long, and we're using this game in conjunction with that arm tapping technique. So I would start and I would say, I spy with my little eye what is it? And my children would go fan. If your child struggles with this, then you can help them. I spy with my little eye and ready, listen, fan. Fan. What's the word? Fan. Oh, where is it? And then you can search. This I play seriously all day long. I play it while we're in line at Target and Costco. I play it when my youngest is starting to lose it as we're driving. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Hey, let's play a game of I Spy. And you can do it with everything that you see around you. This is such a super simple game, and it's working on that critical skill of phonemic awareness. We need phonemic awareness along with that sound symbol connection in order to learn how to read. So playing these games all day long just helps your child develop those skills with that continued repetition to strengthen the neural pathways in the brain. So by the time they get to see print, they can understand it better. It's pretty amazing. So I want to go back to my slideshow right here and get caught up a little bit. What if my child can't read the words? And I know some of you might be thinking, my child isn't there yet. What can I do? Well, like I said, that research really shows that that letter sound correspondence is the fastest way to acquire reading and comprehension. So if your child can't figure out what sound attaches to a letter when reading in a very fluent way, we need to kind of take a step back and develop that sound symbol connection. So instead of getting right to that word level reading, we need to take a step back and really strengthen that sound symbol connection. So one of the ways that we do that at Brain Friendly Reading is through my absolute favorite technique. It's called chart tapping. So the kids that don't know the code to the English language first need to develop this. They need to attach those sounds with that symbol. It's absolutely essential. This is the groundwork. This is the foundation. And we do this through a really, really easy way, just a call and response method, meaning I say it and then you say it, and then I say it and then you say it. We know if we stimulate these parts of the brain that I talked about, that is what lays those neural pathways and that foundation. So I am going to show you a video of me doing this. I want you to listen very closely to the way I am producing the sounds. I say it in a very clipped fashion. So I'm going to say A, apple, A, B, bat, B. I want you to listen closely because I'm not saying B or D, duck, D, not duh. A lot of times, people will attach that extra elongated sound. And when we are teaching this to our children, we want it to be very precise so that they really develop that sound that they need, that's critical for reading. I always, always, always recommend to every student I tutor, when you are tapping the chart at home, the parents cannot be the teacher. The teacher is going to be Miss Kristen. And Kristen Dwyer, the founder of Brain Friendly Reading, has a YouTube channel. There is just a wealth of information on there. I can't say enough fabulous things. But they have many videos of how to tap the different charts that we have. She produces the sounds in a very clipped, precise way. So when your child is practicing this absolutely critical skill at home, all you need to do is pull up your phone, look on YouTube at Brain Friendly Reading and click on the first chart, and she'll go through with a student that call and response method. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to show you a video of that first chart.
Again, A, apple, A. B, bat, book. B, cat. C, I, C, E. D, duck, duck. E, duck, duck. E, edge, F. F, fish. G, goat, G, goat, G, I, G, E, G, Y, giraffe, H, hat, I, itch, in.
So that's just a little clip, a short little clip of me working with my son at home. Now, I wanted you to hear that rhythm. Did you notice that A, apple, A, B, ba, B? It goes in a very methodical, rhythmic motion. When you couple that with the tapping of your finger, it actually creates an intensity. And those neural pathways are built even faster. Along with that, that music and rhythm activates the pleasure side of the brain. So kids feel good when they do this. They feel good when they tap the charts. I was floored as a teacher. I used many different strategies. I had little books, I had flashcards that I would use with my kids. Nothing I have ever used worked so quickly. So I can't say enough amazing things. I also want to add, I did not think I at all would have buy-in from my oldest child when I was taking this course. I thought absolutely for sure he wouldn't tap it. I just kind of went, okay, I'll try it because I want to try it and I want to practice. And I just kept telling him, I need to practice, so you're going to practice with me. The growth I saw, because we have many different charts that I'll show you in a second, but the growth I saw in his reading and in his writing, it was in 2 weeks. I just was absolutely floored. So I do want to show you that Brain Friendly Reading has this first chart that you saw. They have more charts as well, though, which is super exciting. So here's the first chart, which I think that you noticed. Have you ever seen C followed by an I, an E, or a Y? Did you know that C-I-C-E-C-Y, city, it produces that sound? Same with G-I-G-E-G-Y, giraffe, J. When we use this in repetition, we are simply developing those neural pathways. When they see it in a word, they automatically know it before we even get to that explicit lesson. We also have a short vowel chart that the children can tap. A, apple, A, E, edge, F, I, itch, I, O, octopus, A. So one of the things, oh, here's 2 more charts I wanted to show you before I get to this. Oh, I'm sorry about that. We also at Brain Friendly Reading have a blends chart, which by the time we introduce the blends chart, the children already know that B says B and L says O. They already know that. They know that B says B and R says When we stick the blends together and we have a chart, BL black bull, BR brush burr, CL clock cull, CR crab cur. We are using this chart as a way to make these blends automatic. So when kids see them in words, it makes it the word become more fluent faster. My experience has been the children who struggle the most, the children that have a lot of tendencies toward dyslexia, really, really benefit from using this blends chart because it just makes everything faster. They're able to decode those words faster. We also have a teams chart. So here, this is A, I, paint A, Y, hey, A. And we have a syllables chart as well. Now, if your child maybe is a little bit younger or the idea of a whole chart overwhelms them, you do not need to do the whole chart at once. Go at their pace. If you need to just give them and cut off this strip, you can give them this strip and just tap the first strip. Or maybe you see what sounds they know and cover them up with little stickies. I've done this with many students I tutor, and they can't wait to come back the next week to figure out what are they gonna be able to unflap. Which letters are they gonna learn this week and what sounds? And then we tap those and we add it to the whole rhythm of everything. So this is just another very simple way. Again, I really was hesitant at the strategy. I wasn't sure I would have the buy-in of the children that I was working with, but let me tell you, it works and it works quickly. Oh, whoops. So I wanted to show you a way that you can actually use these charts to build a board game. I took the chart and I simply cut it up. And then I used just a regular manila folder. I put the chart, pasted them all down, whatever order I felt like. And then I just grab these guys. If you're working on developing number sense and how to read numbers, you simply just get out some note cards and write some numbers on them. The children can take this out, they can read the number, and they can go through. Or you can just grab a dice as well. You can do this with any of the charts, which is pretty exciting. If your child's working at the ABC chart, you can do that. Maybe they move on and you're far enough into the curriculum where you're gonna start to use the blends chart. You can do that as well. These are just two very simple strategies. And again, if you take this and give this to the kids to color and cut out, they're just practicing developing that sound symbol connection. Another very simple thing you can do, and this is one of the resources on the Brain Friendly Reading, is to take the chart, it's made into larger squares, and you can play Go Fish with it. Playing Go Fish is going to be a little bit different using these cards because instead of saying, I have a, do you have apple? The person would say, I have a, do you have apple? I have do you have map? So again, you would just take all of these, you would mix them up, and the person would grab a few cards, and they could say to the other person, okay, I have a, do you have apple? This again is just another very simple way to practice building that sound symbol connection that we know is absolutely critical. This game is great to play after your child has tapped the chart enough that they know what picture goes with what sound. So I have one more game I actually wanted to share with you today, and it is a picture match game. This is really great actually to teach children vocabulary. All of these games truthfully are, but the picture match looks like this. And here we're working with that short O pattern. And you can take these cards and you can talk to the children before you do anything. What do you think this is? Yeah, this is called a pot. Do you know what we put in a pot? We can put soup in a pot. We can boil water for macaroni and cheese in a pot. You can continue to go on. Does your child know what a mop is? Building a rich, really dense vocabulary is extremely critical in reading and comprehending. So playing games and really taking the time to extend the vocabulary is really phenomenal. What you do to play this game is you can simply take some words and take the letters or the picture cards, and you can go like this. I'm looking right here. Dog. You can have them put it on their arm. Dog. Dog. Oh, here's a dog. Okay, and then you can match these up. So you're just, again, going to select a word. You're going to put it on your arm. That beginning sound goes right there on your shoulder. Box. Box. And then you find the box and go through with that. So we're finally at the end of the presentation. I am so grateful to share these games with you today and to give you again with some of that background with why we play the games that we do. I promised you I would share a link with the QR codes to the resources that I used today. On that website, there are a ton of other resources that are there for you. If this is very interesting to you and you want to learn more, they have courses where parents can take to learn how to help your children at home that you can definitely look into on that website. So you have these QR codes, you can take a picture with them, it'll link you there right now, or you can wait and this presentation will be emailed to you and you can get it then as well. So I just want to end with, I just absolutely love this quote. When we assist children to be proficient in reading, it changes the trajectory of their lives, opening doors and opportunities. Kristen Dwyer, the founder of Brain Friendly Reading, had that quote for us. So I would love it if you wanted to follow us on Facebook or on Instagram at Brain Friendly Reading or at We Shall Read. Both of these have a ton of different resources as well as videos. Even if you type in that Brain Friendly Reading on Instagram, you'll find tutors and teachers who are implementing this work in the classroom or at their house or with tutoring, playing these games. And it's really, really exciting to see. So I just wanted to thank you for taking the time to be here with me tonight. And I really hope that these games can enhance your time with your kids at home after school and on the weekends.